Are you tired of self-doubt holding you back? Have you ever wished you could have the confidence to face your fears, go after your wildest dreams, and the tools necessary to live your best life? Hey there, amazing listeners. I'm your host and author of How to Grasp Confidence and Own Your Power. And I've made it my mission to help you break free from self-doubt and embrace confidence. Subscribe now and join us as we unlock the secrets to unshakable self-assurance. Let's dive in. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Grasp Confidence Podcast. We are in for a treat today. Laura is an award-winning coach and internationally known as a pioneer in the personal coaching field. Laura is also a best-selling author, sought-after speaker, TV personality, and she's been on the likes of Oprah, as well as national morning shows. So exciting. She's a corporate spokesperson, an interfaith minister and performer, and her TEDx talk currently boasts over 2 million views. Hashtag goals. Gotta love it. Laura's 5 books are published in 13 languages. She has addressed audiences around the world on topics such as reinvention, career satisfaction, and small business, as well as bringing coaching to diverse clients ranging from homemakers to celebrities and Fortune 100 companies. She's known for her unique career clarity, the now what methodology, and her A-list coach business mentoring program. Laura, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Tara. Thank you for having me.
So this is quite an interesting resume. We've got viral TEDx talk. You're the coach of coaches, right? We talked about it a lot. You've got all of these amazing books published in 13 languages. It's quite a really robust career that you've had. And then to top it all off, you're an interfaith minister. So interesting, right? It seems like you've dominated every single thing that you touch.
Oh, I wish it were that simple. I wish that were true. It's been a wonderful journey. I have been blessed with many opportunities. I have had a lot of luck. There's no doubt about that. But I didn't experience it as like everything I touched turned to gold kind of thing. But because there's ups and downs with everything, you know. It's you've got a book deal, and then they want me to use a ghostwriter, and I've had to fight to write my own book, you know. So there's always that. I was on Oprah. They called my second book Living Your Best Life. Oprah's people came after me to sue me, but they didn't win, you know. So there's what you see on the resume, and then there's what happens behind the scenes.
Wow. Isn't that the truth? Well, you've got me a little concerned now because I'm working on my book deal. Let's go. So it is an adventure, right? With books. That's interesting. What happened? So you're saying you had a book. It's called Living Your Best Life, and then Oprah. Well, I guess that's pretty a goal when somebody like Oprah tries to sue you. At least you won, right?
Oh yeah, I've gone to get up against Oprah, Barnes and Noble, and Martha Stewart, but you know those were varying degrees of success. So what happened was, my publisher wanted to call my second book Living Your Best Life. And I literally said, you know, Oprah kind of coined the term Live Your Best Life. I don't want to name the book that. And, you know, that could cause some trouble. And they were like, brand confusion is a wonderful thing, right? So they went ahead and wanted to call the book Living Your Best Life. And I got a letter from Oprah's lawyers that they owned the trade. Well, they had claimed the trademark. They didn't own the trademark. And so it turns out that they couldn't trademark live your best life. They never got it. So I was not in any kind of, you know, trouble of any kind, but they tried to shut me down.
Wow. Well, you know, this is sometimes what happens when we get to a level of success. Sometimes it feels like you're you're really getting to a place, maybe you got a book deal, maybe you got TED Talk, maybe you've got all these things going on, and then something out of nowhere, this big obstacle kind of comes in and creeps in at you right when you're at the cusp of success. And I found this in my own life as well. You're getting so far, bam, you're hit with an adversity.
It's a test,
It is a test.
It's like, can you handle this new level of growth? Like there's a joke that if you want to have the best personal growth program in the world, start your own business, or be entrepreneurial or put yourself out there. That'll be the best personal growth journey you could ever go on, because people will, with the good comes the bad, and there's always that dynamic.
Yes, that is interesting, and off air, you and I talked about the faith aspect of this, because I think that is honestly the reason I'm still here. It's that faith aspect. There were so many days, even starting my own company, that I was like, why am I doing this? I felt like I wasn't getting anywhere. And it often can feel like that you're trudging through swamp, that you're just not going anywhere. And it really does test your faith like nothing else I've ever experienced before. Do you relate to that, Laura?
Oh, I relate to that 100%. I mean, when you work in a company, there's a structure, there's goals to hit, there's accountability, there's consequences if you don't hit those markers. And when you are out there on your own, you're the eyes watching, and also you're out there kind of without guardrails. So, you have to make your own guardrails, and you have to set that structure yourself, set the goals yourself, be doing the things you need to do, even if nobody's watching. And it does require a certain amount of faith, whether you believe in a creator God, or you believe in spirit or the universe, or just yourself. You have to believe. I mean, if you don't believe, you won't be able to take action and move forward. And so many people get disheartened when they're not getting the feedback from the universe that they want right away, right? So like, how do you know when to give up? That's always a question that my clients ask me. Like, if you're not getting the results that you want, when do you say, oh, this isn't meant to be? And I think that's only the case if you really feel inside that you have a different purpose, a different path that you're meant to take. Otherwise you persevere, and every time someone stands up there with an Oscar, they say, don't give up, because you never know when you're going to hit that diamond that's in the carbon in the mine. You just never know when it's going to appear. But along the way, you've got to take care of yourself. You can't, sacrifice everything. You've got to keep a roof over your head, etc. But believing in your dream is the key.
I can't agree with you more. There's somebody asked me that one time. He said, why do you keep going? And he had tried entrepreneurship as well. And I'm blessed to be stubborn. As a kid, I was always told patience is a virtue, and that it wasn't a good thing that I was stubborn, right? As an entrepreneur, I have found that it's my greatest asset. And, to your point, the visualization that I carry with me in my mind 24/7 is somebody with a pickaxe. They're in a cave, they're chipping away, and they give up. 3 foot behind that is the biggest gold mine that you could imagine, right?
Right.
There's been several examples of this in real life, people giving up and then getting back on it, and boom, they hit success, right? And I'm not saying that's going to happen every time, but again, in line with what you're saying, if it's a part of your purpose, I think that's really key. You're going to hit these adversaries along the way, these obstacles. But if something is something that you really love and you're passionate about, what's going to stop you?
Right. I mean, there's this fine balance between, determination um, and attachment. When you're too attached and it causes you pain and your life is in shambles and et cetera, that you've gone too far. Right. So determination, commitment, discipline, but with kind of a loose hand a little bit of like, okay, even if nothing, even if I don't hit the gold mine, I still love my life, or I still can live this life. You know what I mean? Like this has to be this balance of um being happy while you're on the journey to something bigger.
Yeah, I agree with that. So, we're talking about aligning with things that are your strengths, your purpose, things that, you really enjoy doing. But one of the biggest things that honestly that I learned in entrepreneurship is the faith aspect of it. So I do want to touch on that because that honestly, my faith has never been tested more, right? But I've also never had more faith at the same time. So it's quite this interesting paradigm, right? This dichotomy, right? And I think that a lot of entrepreneurs can relate to that. Their faith has never been tested more, but at the same time, they have more faith than they have ever had.
Mm.
So it's interesting because, again, you have this background as a minister, right? So I would like to know, too, how faith has played a role in your journey.
Well, interestingly enough, I became an interfaith minister not too long after 9/11 because there was so much misinformation about Islam, that it's bad and only bad. And not that I'm not a Muslim, but I just felt like there were two things going on. One was a lot of misinformation about what that religion meant. And two, my clients were all saying they wanted to do something more meaningful. And I thought, why are we lacking meaning in our lives when it's everywhere? So I went and took this course, this 2-year training where we studied 14 major religious traditions. And basically, whether there's a creator God or not, like the Buddhists don't have a God. Buddha is a prophet, is a teacher, not someone who, there is no God. But all the traditions, whether they be earth-based, indigenous, or one of the major 3 religions, Islam, Judaism, and Catholicism, they all really teach the same thing, right? It's all those guardrails and those guidelines to be a good human, and a human who makes the world better than they found it. And so, for me, I go in and out of believing in a creator. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. I draw on all the different faiths and rituals to explore that. But ultimately, I do believe in there being some unifying and organizing force in the universe, that there is cause and effect, that there is karma in some way. And having a sense of purpose, I think, is the biggest way to connect to that universally. Feeling like what you do has a ripple effect, feeling like you are, like in the Jewish faith, it's called tikkun olam, where you leave the world better than you found it. You're always doing something to, move everybody forward. And I think entrepreneurs especially look at their work that way. They're not working for somebody else. They're working to move something forward in the world, whether it be a movement or a cause or a product or something that changed their life in some way that they hope changes other people's lives. And it requires vision, right? So faith also requires vision. Like you have to see where you're headed, where you're going, what you're building, what the ultimate goal is to keep you in the game when it gets hard, to keep you tapped into that faith.
Yes, that vision really anchors you, right? So even when times get hard, even when there's obstacles and adversities that, come in to life, because it will happen, it's about holding a visual of, where you want to go, who you want to become. And, you know, to your point, leaving every interaction better off just by you being there.
Right.
It's so powerful, Laura, because this is something, regardless of your culture, your belief system, your faith, every interaction, every person that you touch, every place that you go, if you could raise it a little, the entire world would change,
Yep.
wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean that, when I often hear people describe coaching, which I do for a living, they'll say, transforming an organization one person at a time, or transforming the world one person at a time. It is very much a one-on-one type of thing, but it has a ripple effect. Like, I know when I coach somebody, I'm not just coaching them, but I'm coaching the 100 people that are in their lives because they've been changed in some way.
That's right. So it really starts with self, doesn't it? And we talked about this, that, oftentimes when we think of leadership in general, we're thinking of other people, everyone else.
Right. Well, you've got to, to be a leader, you've got to have other people involved. Yes.
It's true. But then, what we're saying, obviously it's about those other people, but there's an origin. So it starts within, and I think that's pretty powerful. So I would like to touch a little bit on this, because when I think of someone who is self-led, I do think of you, right? So I would love to hear a little bit of your take on this, and, as well, if you have any advice for people, because, they're looking at your impressive resume right now and they're saying that's great for her, but I'm not there. So how can I get there? And again, kind of a common theme, what I'm hearing is, again, the self-leadership, the self-guidance. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I mean, Jack Welch had said that, the measurement of a leader is not how many followers they have, but how many other leaders they created. So for you to be able to create other leaders around you, you have to have self-leadership. Like, you have to have an awareness of your behavior. You have to have an awareness of human dynamics. You have to have an awareness of other people and what your ripple effect is, what your effect is on them. When you have a hierarchical leader who's mean, or who's manipulative, or who, holds things over people's heads, you're not motivating anyone. You're not really moving anything forward. You're ruling by fear. And so self-leadership is not fear-based. It's love-based. It's, loving yourself. It's respecting humanity. It's respecting other people. And yet so many of us are charged with getting results out of others. Speaking to our more corporately minded listeners today, not just the entrepreneurs. Well, entrepreneurs have other people working for them too. How do we bring out the best in other people? Because it ultimately will serve us too. So self-leadership, I think, is really based in discipline. And, I'm not a militarily like disciplined person. I have a lot of places where I bleed out over the edges, but there's enough discipline to stay on the track. There's enough discipline to have self-awareness. And I think that's the first discipline that we all have to have, is that self-awareness, that awareness of your behavior, awareness of how you affect others and how you affect the world around you. And that would make a huge difference to any organization and humanity. When people say, I loved this job, but it wasn't really the job. It was, I just had the greatest boss. That's someone demonstrating self-leadership. That probably means they gave that person room to be creative. They gave that person room to be themselves. They gave that person respect and helped them do their job with dignity. And that's self-leadership. That takes personal growth. That takes awareness. That takes humility. And not everyone wants to have that. I mean, I've coached C-suite leaders and trying to move them in that direction. And I remember having one person who was he was not an unkind person, but he would say, well, I got to really think about if this is what I want out of my career, because I like being the answer person. I like the buck stops with me. I like, things stop at my desk. I don't know how I feel about developing other people.
It's not uncommon.
Exactly. But at least he was honest about it. Yes.
Wow, that's incredible. It's really an interesting thing, right? Because and I had a guest not that long ago on the podcast who mentioned that only 15% or so of the global population, leaders included, are emotionally intelligent. Staggering.
That's amazing.
Very staggering. So I think this is something that, regardless if you believe that you're already emotionally intelligent, you can always become more so.
Absolutely.
And we always have more growth potential. I'm constantly learning as well, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. The beautiful thing about this is that it's an evolution. You don't have to wake up and know all of the answers. And I'm sure it was the same with you. I know that, again, you had all these amazing accomplishments, but I can't imagine that it was always this way, Laura.
I was an actor and a waitress when I started. It's true. When I discovered coaching, I was a client first because an old acting mentor of mine had become a coach, and I had sought out his guidance, and then I hired him. And when I realized I wanted to do what he did, I was still pursuing musical theater in New York City. I was waiting on tables. I was shoe modeling. I was doing, whatever I could to make money. And I didn't have a network. I didn't know anybody who could pay me to do what I did. So yeah, I've definitely been on the side of having nothing but an intuitive inspiration that I was onto something that was going to make a difference for people. So I think that, when the circumstances don't yet reflect success, it's back to, are you coming from love or are you coming from fear? I was a student of the Course in Miracles, by the way, which is not a religion, but it's a psychospiritual self-study course. Marianne Williamson's probably one of the best interpreters of that text. And to me, some people say that text is about forgiveness, but to me, that text is about, there's only two thoughts. You either come from fear or you come from love. And I use that as my screen and my filter, no matter if I'm coaching C-suite executives or homemakers. Like, it just doesn't matter. Like, are you coming from a place of fear and trying to dominate others with fear, or are you coming from a place of self-love and therefore loving towards others? And so even when I was, starting out coaching and I didn't quite have success yet, and, I'd get 2 clients and I'd lose one, and I'd get another one and I'd lose another one. And, all that back and forth and thinking you're never going to make it. And is this ever going to work out? Is this ever going to go my way? I was still in this place of, I knew I was onto something that made a difference to my life and was making a difference to others. And it kept me in the game. So there's that faith piece is, and where are you coming from? Like, if it was, I was trying to please somebody, or if I was trying to, my father wanted me to be a lawyer, so I was studying law because he wanted me to be. Like, those are the times that when things aren't going your way, you've got to look at, what am I being motivated by? If I'm being motivated by self-love, or I'm being motivated by fear of retribution from someone or something, then that makes your decision for you. When do you stick with it and when do you not?
Yes. Well, that resonates a lot. And from my own experience, I got an MBA. It's not really me. I have an MBA from in business analytics. I've got certificates from Cornell, Notre Dame.
Wow.
Corporate finance. For a long time in my life, I was living someone else's version of success, whatever that meant for someone else. And I chose that path because I thought that would make more money, right? More stability, coming from a place of fear.
Mm-hmm.
When, that was a really hard path. It was. And the whole time I was on it, I thought it was the easy way to make more money. But quickly afterwards, I realized I wasn't actually making any more money. I wasn't making any more difference. I certainly wasn't happier. I was miserable. So again, this narrative that we're talking about, a lot of people are going through this right now, you know? A lot of people are getting a certain degree or certification because it's what their parents expect or what their culture expects or family or whatever. And then they finish it, complete it. They have $200,000 in debt. Thankfully, I don't have any, but a lot of people are. A lot of people are graduating medical school, realizing it's not for them. We have a huge mass exodus right now in healthcare. And part of it is we're basing our decision based on fear.
Yep. And then you feel stuck. You know, and people ask me, like, when do you know it's time to move on? I'm like, well, what's your misery scale? You know, how miserable are you? Because if you're miserable, that's a pretty good indication that it's time to move on.
Yes, absolutely. We're not meant to be miserable. Or
No, I truly believe that we're not meant to suffer to make a living. I truly believe that.
yes.
That's one of the tenets I hold dear. I grew up with a father who hated what he did. And, you know, he was first generation American, first to go to college in his family. He had working class, but done well parents. And he just felt like, you know, this was what you do. You go to college, you get a good job, you send your kids through school, and he just wouldn't make a change no matter how miserable he was. And it very much affected what I do for a living. Like, I do not want anyone to suffer to make a living. I've spent 25 years helping people figure out what to do with their life to make sure that they find something that aligns with who they really are.
Yeah. Well, it's admirable, right? And I love that about you.
Thank you.
It's important, you know, and for anybody that's listening to this right now, maybe you feel stuck. Maybe it's a career, maybe you feel stuck in your relationship, maybe you aren't sure what your next path is. And again, maybe you've been hit with adversities. You've chased other people's versions of success for a long time and it hasn't gotten you anywhere. And you feel this sense of emptiness and purposeless. And I relate to that. But this is a great time because it's always the time is now, right? There's never going to be tomorrow is the
There's
right
never a
time.
perfect time.
There's never a perfect time. It's always right now. So if anybody is listening to this that really resonates with that and they feel that they're in a place of stuckness, whatever that looks like to you, I would encourage you to understand that it's not stuckness. We're choosing something. So if we can choose something else, something that benefits us, something that we love doing, something that when we wake up, we're excited. We have a fire lit under us that gives us energy. Follow those things and start making choices in that direction. And we might not know the answer today, but we can make an active choice today to say, you know what, I don't want to be miserable anymore. Life's too short. I want to start choosing me. What do you think about that?
I mean, I made a career out of that. I mean, you know, I made a career out of that. And, you know, if it occurs to you that there's another choice to make, then there's another choice to make. You know, it's just, you know, when people say they don't know, I don't really believe that. I think you do know, you're just afraid of taking action. So it's easier to stay stuck and say you don't know. You know, if it's leaving a relationship or if it's leaving a job or if it's moving across the country, it's like you do know, or it wouldn't be in your mind. And then it's gathering the courage to do it. You know, it's inertia is so ingrained, but the gumption to go or the gumption to change is not going to go away. It'll just keep eating at you until you finally do something about it. So it's really about how much pain do you want to endure in the meanwhile. You know, be more proactive and take action before it gets too painful.
Yes, I love that. Taking action builds confidence, right? We can't build confidence based on theory, based on thinking about something, but we build it based on making positive choices in the right direction by taking action. So I was wondering, Laura, if you have a piece of advice for this person that's listening to this audience today. Maybe they're torn. Maybe they're saying, like you just said, I don't know. Would you have some advice for that person?
Sure. I mean, my advice is you do know. Honor those little inklings that are coming. You don't have to take radical action, quit cold turkey, leave in a huff or whatever your scenario is. You can make a slow crossover, start making inroads into something, start experimenting, start interviewing people who are doing something that you might like to do. Or if it's a relationship scenario, start making a plan, um, it doesn't have to be immediate, but as you take steps, the next step evolves. So, it becomes clear what to do next. So take the first step, I guess, is the advice.
Absolutely. And I think we do know, right?
I do.
We really do. We're smarter than we give ourselves credit for. And sometimes we don't know intellectually, or we do know, but we block ourselves, right? But sometimes our body knows too. I felt this in my own life where intellectually I said, no, this is the course. This is what I must do. My body started rebelling against me. My hair started falling out. I would get anxiety, panic attacks,
Yeah.
trouble digesting food, skin rashes. And eventually somebody's going to take over that conversation, whether it's your body or your mind.
Right. I mean, that's what I said before it gets too painful, it's like there will be physical clues. There could be other life clues, I'm always mildly amused because I don't wish anybody pain. But when people, get laid off and they're like, oh, it's such a disaster. It's such a tragedy. It's like, well, how long have you been wanting to leave there? Oh, 5 years, but you did nothing about it. And so the universe took care of it for you. And now you're mad. Right. So, something will break down when we're not in alignment.
Ooh, I like that. And you know what? If we think about it from a car perspective, won't your car break down eventually if it's not worked on? Well, see, the thing of it is, we know that's the case, right? So when we're not in alignment, it's not ever going to work out long term.
We've got to do the maintenance.
Got to do the maintenance, got to do the work. And it's not going to
And it's that self-awareness is the maintenance.
Yes, the self-awareness aspect, the self-leadership, right? And again, that goes back to our conversation earlier about that emotional intelligence and aligning with things that are within your value structure, within the things that make you happy, within where there's natural joy. Again, I believe that we're meant to be joyful. I don't believe that we're meant to live in misery. So I love what you said there. I think that is so powerful. Laura, I'm sure everybody is going to want to connect up with you, watch your TEDx talk, and of course, learn more about your work. So what are the best places people can find you at?
If you can remember my name, you can find me because it's an unusual name. So if you Google Laura Berman Fortgang, you're going to find laurabermanfortgang.com. You're going to find the TEDx talk. And remember, it's not Laura Berman. She's the sex doctor. It's Laura Berman Fortgang.
I love it. Do you ever get that a lot?
Yes, I do. Since pre-internet days, I've been getting phone calls or emails thinking I was Dr. Laura Berman.
I love it. Well, that's wonderful. Laura, such a good conversation today. Thank you so much. And thank you for everyone who tuned in to this episode of Grasp Confidence Podcast. Guys, don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave a review. This show grows based on your reviews, your downloads, and your shares. And I read each and every review personally, and I love them so much. So thank you so much for all our amazing listeners, and we will catch you guys on the next episode. Take care. And that's a wrap for this episode of Grasp Confidence. Thank you for joining me today and investing in yourself. Remember, building confidence is an ongoing journey, and each step you take brings you closer to the empowered, fearless version of yourself that you were born to be. Don't forget to visit my website, follow me on social media, and purchase my book, which is available on Amazon. Thank you for listening. We will see you on the next episode. Stay confident.